didn't have time to fall. Amen.
Amen.
Because his hands were busy going about doing God's business. We need to busy our hands.
Yes.
Going about doing God's business. Idle time is dangerous.
Yes. Amen.
When we carve out time for ourselves, that's a dangerous time. I need time for me. I need some me time. You know, that's the talk of the day. You got to have some you time. And it's during the me time, it's during the you time that we fall, that we get in trouble, that we are susceptible to the enemy.
Yes.
As long as David was out there on the battlefield, slaying his thousands and tens of thousands, everything was all right. But one day, David got so big that he could send his army out, he could relax, he could sit back in the palace, and he could just have some David time, some me time. I've got good men, I've got good captains before the host, I've got good people fighting in the battle, I've got good workers on the field, so I can sit back and have some me time. And Satan said, oh, it's some David time. See, when we are in God's time, we don't have time for foolishness. But when we're in our time, Satan opens the door.
All right.
And so he was relaxed on his terrace, you know, looking over his kingdom, beholding all the blessings that God had given unto him, and all of a sudden his eyes fell on Bathsheba.
All right.
She was in the midst of taking a bath, washing herself, and David's eyes fell on her, and he was fixated, mesmerized. He could not get that image out of his mind.
Get it out.
Tried to resist it. But my brothers and sisters, when Satan is able to get an inch in your life, I want you to know that he's coming for a mile.
All right.
If you give him any opportunity,
All right.
to influence your thinking through your eye gate, through your ear gate, he's going to come through
All right.
like a roaring lion. And he's not looking, or it might seem like he's looking to please you in the beginning, but his ultimate aim is to destroy.
Yes.
So what looks good in the beginning, what may even seem good, what may feel good, what may tickle your fancy, what may scratch your itch, is going to destroy you.
All right. All right.
Little drug over here, a little marijuana over here, a little drink over there. Whatever it is. You know, I'm just talking. I'm just having a conversation. That's all. We just talking. We just, nothing to it. He just needs an inch. Because his aim is for that mile. Amen.
Amen.
And so, my brothers and sisters, David got himself involved into something that he could not shake. Now, what I found out is that the first act was transgression. The first act was transgression. And that's why Jesus said, if a man looks on a woman and desires her, he's already committed the act.
That's right.
So David looked on her and he desired her, and that desire kept driving, and he committed the physical act. That was transgression. But that changed David. Listen, our lives are made of patterns. Now, either we are following a pattern that allow us to be children of God, allow us to live righteously before God, even if we're in that pattern, then everything we do is going to lead to the same end.
All right.
If you take a seamstress and you give a seamstress a pattern, and that seamstress follow that pattern, whatever that seamstress is finished with that garment is going to look the same. That no matter what color the material is, when that seamstress is finished with the garment, it's going to look the same. It could be blue, it's going to look the same. Purple, it could be floral, whatever it is. When you look at that finished product, it's going to be the same shape. It's going to have the same design. It's going to have the same, everything is going to be the same. No deviation. That's our lives. If we are following the pattern that God has put us into, when we come to the end of our road, the result is going to be the same. If we say that we accept Jesus Christ as our pattern, and we are following his footballs, if we are following his life example, if we are walking his walk, then when we come to the end of the journey, we are going to, our road is going to end the same. That's why Jesus said, the word said that, where I am, there you will be also.
Right.
In my Father's house. You know where I'm going. Where I am, you're going to be also. You need to follow my pattern. If you follow his pattern, you are going to end up in the same place that he ended up.
All right. Amen.
I don't know about you, but I want to end up in the same place. That's why he said, that's why the word said that you have to choose this day. You can't travel two paths. You can't follow two patterns. You're going to either be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm.
All right.
Choose this day.
All right.
Choose. So David was in this pattern where he was pleasing God. But when he got out of that pattern, when he transgressed with Bathsheba, it put him into a pattern of sin.
All right. Amen.
Oh, help me somebody.
Amen.
Now, when you, oh, help me, Spirit. I pray that God helps somebody today. When you have sinned, and if that sin is not faced, if you have not admitted that sin, if you have not come to the point where you recognize that sin and you ignore that sin, when you cover that sin up, your life is going to follow that pattern of sin. Watch David.
All right.
He covered up the sin. He said, oh my God, this woman that I slept with, she's the wife of another man. Now another problem comes up when she knocks on the door and says, I'm pregnant.
Oh. Woo. All right.
Her husband Uriah was on the battlefield. So David said, we have a dilemma. My solution to the dilemma, he's in this pattern of sin. He's in this pattern of sin. Call Uriah out of the battlefield, bring him home. Now, first of all, the first sin was adultery. Now the second sin becomes deception. Call him out on the battlefield, let him come home, let him spend some time with his wife, have some quality time. But the only thing was that Uriah was committed. See, Uriah was about the work of the kingdom. Uriah said, I can't go in, I can't have some me time because God has called me, my men are on the battlefield, my place is on the battlefield.
All right.
On God's battlefield.
All right.
No time for me time. The war is raging. My brothers and sisters, there's too many Christians, too many children of God who are on sabbatical taking some me time. They have gotten to the point where they're not on the battlefield anymore. No, they're furloughed. They have a leave of absence.
All right.
Yeah, and the battle is raging. We're losing our children. We're losing our communities. We're losing our state, our city. We're losing.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
But we are on sabbatical. But the war is raging. Uriah said, I can't do this. He wouldn't go in. He slept on the steps of the palace. David said, what is wrong with this man? I called him, and you know what? Now David, at one time, David was the same way. You know how it is when we mess up, when we get our attention away from what we've been called to do for the Lord. You know, I had a brother that came by. People are strange. They say, well, you still working? You doing all this work? I told him I had been on the roof shoveling snow. He said, he looked at the brother and he said, you let somebody else. But you know what? I need to work. I'm here because I need to be about my Father's work.
Right.
I don't have time. As long as God gives me the strength, as long as God gives me the ability, the help, I'm going to be out here doing what I need to do.
All right.
Amen. I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I won't do, that I have not done. If we have a choice of doing two jobs, one job being the hard job, one job being the easy job, I'm going to do the hard job.
All right.
Let you do the easy job. Because the work of the kingdom is too important. See, sometimes when we have been connected with God, it's like David. David at one point, David was like this. It's not a choice, it's an obligation. See, some of us do what we do for God, but it's a choice. But when we are really committed to God, it's not a choice, it's an obligation.
Yes, amen.
And we won't do anything else. Our conscience won't allow us to do anything. I mean, you take some time off, but you won't enjoy yourself.
That's right.
Because your mind is going to be on what you should be doing.
All right.
So David had gotten away from that. That's why he couldn't understand why Uriah would not go in and enjoy himself. Because he was caught up in the kingdom's business. And so David said, oh my God, the dilemma persists. So instead of coming out of that pattern, he moves deeper into it.
That's right.
He said, well, if I cannot send him into his wife, we're going to send him into battle. Send him to the front line. Send him to the worst part of the war. Send him to where they're bombing. And we know that if you don't have some support around you, that your life is going to be lost. So they sent him into the hottest part of the battle. And then David's orders were, when you get him out there, you know, I know he's enthusiastic. He's committed. He's going to be out there fighting. He won't even look back to see who's behind him, because he's going to go forward. He's going to do what he has to do for God, no matter who is behind him. You know how it is when you get caught up in doing what God called you to do. It don't matter who's with you.
All right.
So he knew that Uriah would get caught up in the battle. He would be so busy moving forward that he would not even look around to see who was behind him. He said, when he get all caught up and he get out there, then I want the rest of the troop to withdraw. Back up. Leave him out there by himself. And they did that. And Uriah was fighting. And all of a sudden, there was nobody fighting with him. And all of the forces of the enemy, from his left, from his right, from the forward, attacked and killed Uriah. Now, not only had David committed adultery, not only had he been deceptive, but now he committed murder.
Wow.
When you are in a pattern, it doesn't get better. It gets worse.
Yes. Amen.
So the only thing for us to do when we have sin